Greetings survivors and friends, Dr. SHADOWFRAX here once again with your weekly injection of Rust news, and this week's update, being the first Thursday of the month as it is, means a forced wipe for one and all. Forced wipe is of course best wipe, and this one comes with the addition of two new small monuments, or SMALLUMENTS, which you should know quite a bit about already if you've been watching my channel. The first of these is the Sperm Kit, or supermarket for those of you familiar with Wheel of Fortune, and inside the main part of the shop you'll find shelves, magazine stands, a counter, and food supplies in amongst what remains of the stock. Just don't pay too much attention to the best before dates. Those are only guidelines anyway. At the back of the shop there are two rooms for the long gone staff. One has a crate in it, and round the rear of the premises you'll discover a fenced in area with a recycler, more loot, and a ladder to the roof where you'll be able to grab a couple more crates. The petrol station monument is slightly bigger. It too has a shop, although you can bet they charged over the odds for snacks when they were in business. 3 doors lead off of this area, one to the oh so savoury looking toilet, which super hygienically can sometimes contain food crates. There's a storage room in which you'll find more food and a weapons crate, plus a hatch that leads to the roof of the building and some more loot spawns, and then there's the office, which doesn't really do much but lead to the garage, where you'll find another recycler and a strange hole in the ground. You can follow this down to a small tunnel with another loot crate, but which hobbit was digging this, and why? Both of these monuments are radiation free, show up on paper maps, and you'll also find barrels and food crates in the areas around them. We might well see some more of this type of thing in the future, but for the time being, the snow biome is next on the list to tackle, with the main goal being to make it look more distinctive from the other environments. The more monuments there are, the more crowded Rust Island potentially becomes, and the harder it is to squeeze all this stuff, including cave systems and the like, onto a map of average size. With this in mind, the default island size has been expanded this week from 12 square kilometers back to 16 square kilometers, which incidentally is what it used to be, and the monument spawn priorities have been adjusted to ensure that certain ones are guaranteed on all seeds and map sizes. For now though, the only one that's affected by this is the launch site, which has highest priority. Something that you'll notice now in the inventory and crafting screens is that most weapons and tools have new panels which will bombard you with information about such important metrics as damage, rate of fire, attack radius, etc, etc. For anything that can be used for gathering, you'll also see a bar which indicates how much it will yield of each resource, with the value in red showing how much of that material goes to waste in the process. For instance, stone hatchets are quite wasteful when gathering flesh, but the far more surgical bone knife will yield you 100% of whatever there is to butcher. This is only very basic at the moment and will continue to be buffed and polished, but one good thing is that at least now you can see how something will perform before you go ahead and craft it. Not much additional work was done to Bradley this week, apart from a fix to stop him from shooting players through the rocket factory roof, which was very sneaky and annoying, and an adjustment to his loot table to add an extra 10 to 12 tech trash, which is good because although he's stopped dropping C4, at least now you get some good donations towards making the stuff. Cliffs, as you may remember, recently had a colour change back to a nice neutral grey, but unfortunately the textures on the surrounding terrain weren't going to win any beauty contests. There were a couple of rewrites to systems that made this problem difficult to address, and the prefabs have now been updated, so hopefully they won't be such a blot on the landscape now. In other changes, overlays such as those for the scope and heavy armour helmet are no longer visible in third person, which is very useful for those of us who make cinematics, and players will now vomit violently after eating raw food. Marvellous. In performance, Rust just upgraded to use Unity 2017.1, which fortunately didn't knacker anything major, and the good news is that this version lays the groundwork for some quite major optimizations in the future. Another small memory leak relating to user interface textures was found and fixed this week. There were improvements to profiling, which I've decided not to bore you with here, but which you can read all about on the dev blog if you so wish. Optimizations to particle collisions were made after it was noticed that some explosions, such as survey charges, were lagging the game for anyone in the blast area. This turned out to be related to the debris that was being ejected, and so collisions for these are now disabled on any survey charge explosions further than 50 meters away. If this works, then it'll be rolled out to others in a future patch. Also, you'll be glad to know that the infamous crash on exit bug should now be fixed, although I bet some of you will tell me it hasn't been, so please don't disappoint me. It was rather awkward when a rage quit took so long, so hopefully now it'll be a smoother experience for you. Over to works in progress now, and the new AI nav mesh system is all starting to hang together nicely. Even so, there are still some performance creases to iron out, and as the standards for this need to be devilishly high, it's still not quite ready for prime time and is currently only being tested on a few select servers. The aim is for NPCs to traverse between grid cells without flying through things, as we don't want to return to teleporting super bears, do we? Unfortunately, the extra work means we still haven't got scientists by default, but hopefully they'll be able to start conducting their research everywhere soon. Speaking of which, the Geiger counter model that I showed you recently has been set up now. It's actually not a player item, only for use by the scientists, sadly, because science, and because unlike us they like to check for radiation with something other than their genitalia. Lastly, it has been a long old time since we had any new weapon types, and certainly a long time since we had a makeshift one, but this week brings news that a new cobbled together nail gun's been modelled, and this is intended to be a visually chunkier small shooter. No word yet on the functionality or indeed ammo needed, but the concept alone is riveting, and I can imagine this becoming a staple weapon in everyone's arsenal. Thank you for watching. Please support me by liking and subscribing. Leave me a comment down below as to what you thought of this week's update, and join me over on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, and my Steam group too. I shall catch you all soon, but in the meantime, keep calm and stay rusty. Cheerio.